All right, I have restarted the recording. So to jump in where Rebecca left off, our original timeline had anticipated this group would vote to accept or not accept Vega Discover in January of 2022, but due to the complications and the complexity of CCS's e-content needs, we have a lot of e-content in our database right now, and one of the key features that will need to be developed in Vega prior to accepting or having a vote on whether we would want to switch to this discovery interface is the e-content scoping. So essentially, we only want your patrons to see the e-content that they have access to. We do not want your patrons to see e-content owned by other libraries that they're unable to check out or access online. So this is going to take Innovative a little bit longer to develop than they had originally anticipated. Rebecca had shared out a revised timeline with this group earlier. In that revised timeline, we're looking to soft launch at our beta libraries in Q2 of 2022. So that would be roughly April. During the soft launch period, our beta libraries will again begin using Vega Discover at OPAC stations within their library, and CCS will complete user testing with patrons and volunteers at those beta libraries. Once we begin and complete user testing, CCS will have a better understanding of whether or not Vega is meeting the needs of our patrons and our communities. In this revised timeline, we would be looking at presenting the results of our user tester findings in July of 2022, providing an update on the soft launch process, and then a vote on whether or not to accept Vega in October of 2022, so in the fall. Pending that vote, we would either begin implementing Vega and switching all of our libraries over to the new discovery interface in late fall 2022/early winter 22-23. Rebecca, anything to add there? I think you're back online here.
We've switched, so now we're on Beth's computer. It's a fun jumping bean situation here. No, I'm happy to answer questions or refer them to Deborah as the case may be, but I wanted to keep everyone apprised of where we're at on that.
Hey, Rebecca, this is Lindsay from Glenview. I just want to ask again if we are going to look at other products before we decide. Rebecca, you and I had a discussion, and then I just wanted to ask the rest of the group if they're aware that Biblio Commons has a similar product. And I'm wondering if we're going to be able to see that and get pricing to see if it compares.
So yeah, when we talked about like why we're not going to RFP because this is sort of an exploration and a partnership with Innovative. And I did, for those of you who obviously weren't on the phone with me and Lindsay, I did say that I would look into other products that are out there and see what we could do in terms of showing the options to governing board ahead of the vote. That is in keeping in the spirit of our existing agreement with and commitment to Innovative. So I will be checking in with some other consortia to see what tools they're using and what benefits they're getting. At this time, I'm not sure that we'll schedule like a full-fledged demo with any other vendors because again, we have an existing agreement. And we're committing a fair amount of staff time to make sure that this is a product that's going to benefit not just CCS, but other consortia as well. So we want to kind of adhere to that. I'm happy to hear from others as well.
Does anyone have any either comments based on Lindsay's question and Rebecca's response, or any other questions for either Deborah or Rebecca about the Innovative Development Partner Program? No? Okay. I don't think there's anything we need to do about that. It was just a general update. So moving on to the COVID-19 technical and advisory group meetings. I know that Rebecca had asked me if this needed to be an actual agenda item or just a bullet point in her report, but I suggested that we make an agenda item just so that we're all aware. Rebecca, I can tell them what we what you guys have decided. I mean, I think it's spelled out in your report, but if you want to say anything additional about that.
Oh, Catherine, can you mute your computer?
I guess my question would be, as someone who always tries to understand the entire landscape, is looking to Lindsay to just ask her, have you used the product that you would also like the consortium to investigate? Do you have I'm just curious to know why, because I like to look at everything. So
Why I'm interested in Biblio Commons?
yeah.
Because they offer a robust discovery layer, and it's been on the market for a while, and it's being used by many libraries successfully. And they also have a new product, or a newish product, which is their Biblio Web, which allows the discovery layer to integrate seamlessly into the library's website. So if you were to look at Chicago Public's website or Cincinnati Hamilton, those are a couple of example libraries who are using the Biblio Commons discovery layer along with the website product. And we're really interested in going in that direction, full disclosure here. But I think it's a very similar product to the Vega, and it's been around longer. So I think it should be looked at.
This is Diane McNulty, and when we were with Cersei, we did have Biblio Commons, and I thought that we dropped it because they weren't supporting consortia, but maybe that's my error in thinking.
I think, Joe, you were going to say something as well.
And I was going to repeat what Diane said. I think they kicked us out because they couldn't support consortia. They did well with single systems with a lot of branches. Like I think they were in like weren't they in New York and things like that, but they couldn't handle us. And we were only 24 at the time.
Yeah, so CCS does, as many of you know, have a history with Biblio Commons, and that was before my tenure at CCS in any capacity. So I don't have all the facts, although I do know that some of them perhaps are disputed depending on who you talk to. But what we see with a lot of products over and over, including the base ILS like Polaris and Symphony and everyone else. And Tim in the chat noted that we stopped using Biblio Commons in 2014. Thanks, Tim. Is that, as Joe said, products that say, oh, we can handle a consortium environment often are referring to a county system or a big sort of centralized system where all the branches have the same policies and all the sharing is the same. Lindsay has provided.
You stopped working again, Rebecca, if you can hear me.
I don't know what Lindsay has provided.
I think I provided her with a consortium in Michigan, the Lakeland Cooperative. I think there are 46 libraries. They adopted Biblio Commons recently.
What was the name of the consortia, Lindsay?
Lakeland.
Oh, okay, yeah, yep. Okay, I'm gonna go and see if Rebecca knows that she's not working. Hold on one sec.
And while they're briefly checking on Rebecca, I will just chime in to say that the system versus consortia settings is one of the reasons for sort of this extension of our Vega Discover timeline. our needs as a consortia are very complex, and they're different from other Vega Discover development partners like New York Public Library. Again, due to our differing policies, and especially due to the way our e-content is configured, there is a lot of complexities that go into a discovery interface for our specific environment. So I see Rebecca is back now as Beth. So Rebecca, I'll turn it over to you to finish your thought there.
You're muted.
I could hear most of that, and that covered it. I will be following up with other consortia who do use Biblio Commons to see if some of the issues that CCS had experienced persist. And I'll be providing that information to the board when I have it. Again, with the change in our timeline, we're not looking to vote on this at our next meeting. So we do have some time to, as I said, do some product research and determine what information would be most helpful to governing board as we move forward with the Vega development partner program.
Thanks, Rebecca. I don't mean to throw a wrench in the system. I just think it should be discussed.
Sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments regarding the development partner program? And my apologies for missing Catherine's hand up when I was moving forward. So anything else? Let me just make sure no one else has their hand up. Okay. Okay, now moving on to the COVID-19 updates and the technical and advisory group meetings.
Yeah, so we just, in interest of planning and talking to Pam before this meeting, she said that she's tired of being an amateur epidemiologist, which I'm sure is a feeling all of you can relate to. Rather than kind of tracking the numbers and having a will they, won't they meet in person approach to our advisory and technical group meetings, we have decided we're going to just keep them virtual through the fiscal year. We had originally said through the calendar year and we'd reassess in the fall. Here we are in the fall. So our plan is to continue with those virtually. My team is reporting that those meetings continue to be really well attended and very productive. So I don't see a downside at this time to continuing. And as we prepare for the next fiscal, we'll reassess again and see where we want to go. In terms of governance meetings, we'll continue to monitor, and as long as Illinois remains under a disaster proclamation, we'll meet virtually. And then when we are no longer living in the midst of a disaster, I will be delighted to see all of your faces in person again. Any objections or concerns or questions?
No? Great. Okay, moving on to the Rails update. Anything you want to add to your written report?
Yes, I would just add that I am a member of a new working group within Rails. It is the LSAP Sustainability Working Group. And it is a working group of the consortia committee. So the working group will report their findings up to consortia committee, and then that'll go to the Rails board. And the charge of the committee is to develop a plan for all the LSAPs to be self-sustaining, which we already are, so we're good. And we being CCS, without Rails support, we continue as we've been going. And then also look at how Rails is supporting consortia now and determine if that's the best way forward or if other changes should be made, and develop a comprehensive plan in that arena. So we are still kind of in a discovery phase with all of that, looking at the landscape in Illinois and in other places, we're looking at like cost saving measures in consortia, as well as just like shifting the model of Rails support. Like, should they be providing annual support to us, or just sort of grant support for special projects, or just the catalog member grants? So it's one of their longer working groups. Will be working until at least March on this. So I will be providing reports as we kind of dig more in, but right now we're just sort of brainstorming and gathering data.
Any questions for Rebecca regarding this? No? Let me make sure.
Oh, can I say one more thing, Pam?
Sure.
So I did want to just highlight the Rails cataloging services, which they have promoted at it's in the packet, and they promoted it at their recent member update. And we have been sort of anxiously waiting to see what the Rails services would look like. As you all know, we are looking at how we can expand our own cataloging services in-house. And Deborah and I have had some like very preliminary conversations, super preliminary, but it seems like special project cataloging is like there are avenues for that within Illinois already. So she and I are starting to talk, and then we'll loop in Rachel and some additional folks as well on what it would look like for CCS to kind of essentially, instead of a member library loading their B&T orders, for us to just like do that, sort of a full-on centralized option for interested libraries. And previously we had been really thinking more about like special projects and foreign language or world languages, but with the Rails services, we don't want to be redundant. So we are sort of shifting gears on that exploration. And I'm excited about the possibilities, but I feel like there's a lot of logistics that we need to work through. So please do let Rails know what you think of their services and how excited you are for them, if that is the case, so they can continue to devote resources to that.
I'll just say that Morton Grove is one of the libraries that is working with Rails on this. We had volunteered months ago when they were still, in the initial planning stages. So we haven't started anything with them, but certainly I'm, happy to report back as we get deeper into that with them.
And Pam, if I'm not mistaken, I think Nancy said at the update that was going to be like in the next couple months doing the testing with the libraries. I was going to ask if anyone is, so that's awesome that Morton Grove is. So
yeah, so it was after the Rails meeting, I went to my tech services manager and I was talking about, she goes, oh no, we're already part of that. I'm like, okay, great.
So if any of our staff are interested in asking about how that is going, tech services manager, best person is your contact for that?
Yeah, her name is Helga Scherer. But if you just ask for the tech services manager, I can, put her email in the chat or email you later on. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, she'd be the best person to reach out to.
Awesome. I'm super excited at the incredibly long list of languages they are covering. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. So Rebecca, could I ask a little bit more about what you were saying that you and Deborah, I know that it's like just conceptual at this point. So would that be like, I'm just thinking about it from like an acquisition standpoint, you guys wouldn't be taking on the whole acquisitions piece. It would just be once the order is placed, loading the B&T records is what is being looked at, right? I just want to make sure that I'm not going to relay any incorrect information to anyone in my library.
Yeah, I mean, essentially this is sort of like, okay, what would happen if instead of like once the acquisitions or, selectors, whoever's doing that work, once they build their cart in Baker and Taylor, then does CCS do all the processing to get those records loaded and upgraded? I don't know. I mean, to me, that seems like where the gap is, not in this project zone that we had originally thought. I think it's a much different workload than we had originally kind of thought about. But I think that there would be some potential benefits, like sometimes acquisitions reports can be sort of intensive and run into each other a little bit. So if there was, and again, all of this would be optional. No one would be required to use this service if we did offer it. But yeah, essentially, like we would take over at the point that the order was sent to Baker and Taylor. So a participating library would have to be using like acquisitions with EDI.
But that's now what, like over half of us, right?
Oh yeah, and more and more libraries are really getting on that acquisitions bandwagon because they're seeing the time that it saves. So again, it would really be like, would they take over when the order was received or when the cart was placed? I don't know. I'm like, oh God, there's catalogers on this call too. Like they're gonna be like, Rebecca, you don't know how anything works. That's true. But but it would be looking more at like, you know, dealing with a whole order rather than like a piecemeal original cataloging. It'd be like, okay, what if we just did the copy cataloging? Gave your staff all that time to focus on like sort of flipping it, instead of us doing your special projects, your staff doing your special projects.
And so I am also not a cataloger, just clarifying that, not that that was ever in doubt. So what it sounds like too would be also attaching, it's not just loading the on order records, but also attaching the item records to everything as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, potentially.
Potentially. I know that this is all very still conceptual, like nothing is like, this is just about
Yeah, like,
brainstorming ideas.
literally like 2 days ago, we were talking
Okay.
about this.
So like you should have a project plan in like another 4 or 5 days, we're thinking.
like 3 hours.
Perfect.
Yeah, no,
I mean, now that you and Deborah are like back together in the office, like anything is possible, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. Like, how would that work? I don't know. Would be required that they use processing from the vendor? I don't know. Again, there's a lot of questions, but it's the announcement and sort of the scope of the Rails work. I knew they were looking at projects, but I wasn't sure what it was going to look like. Really has changed kind of my perspective on where we could be supporting libraries.
Would you prefer that we not, I mean, I know that this is recorded and it's public, given that it is in a very conceptual stage and given that we have staff at many libraries that like to have lots of detail on things, just talking about the fact that we're looking at a lot of different ideas?
Yes, that sounds like a great approach. Again, would it work even theoretically? I don't know. This is literally like, okay, projects are covered, or like, you know, languages are covered, local history, genealogy covered. What does that leave? It's like the regular stuff. Or do we duplicate services and just, you know, kind of widen that pipe of how much can be accepted in that special project realm? So still, again, no project plan, no request for a pilot library. It's really just like, I wonder what would happen if. So yes, this is not something that we're like out touting as our new plan.
Awesome.
Any other questions about the agenda items or anything else in the report about additional project updates? Rebecca or Deborah, do you want to talk about that? Does anyone have any questions about those?
If we're like doing my report now, I would just take this opportunity to again thank the CCS team, especially Deborah and Beth, for keeping everyone going and making such amazing progress on all of our projects in my absence. I was telling Pam before the meeting, I was never once worried about like, oh, what's going to happen while I'm out. Like, they were amazing, and I am so grateful to have such an awesome team that I could really kind of unplug and disconnect. And again, thank you to the board and executive committee for your support in my absence. I am very happy to be back and getting back on track, and looking forward to all the work we're going to do in the next year. So thank you all, and thank you again to Deborah and Beth.
Sorry about that. I was looking at my packet and not my agenda, so I did jump ahead a little bit. Okay, reports. President's report. I don't have any report. It is great to have Rebecca back. And I saw lots of cute little baby pictures, so because I'm here in the office. Secretary. Anne?
No report.
Mick?
No report.
Rebecca, anything else you want to add, since I did jump around a little bit to your report?
No, thank you.
Great. Committees and groups?
Okay, to take questions on any of the content in there, the regular meeting stuff.
Anyone have any questions regarding committee and groups reports?
Could I just ask about, I know we talked, there's a little update on the new data field. Tim, could you give us like how is that going with training for staff and, you know, rolling stuff out? Do you have any updates that you could share on that? Oh, Tim might have, oh no, he didn't freeze. Okay.
Sorry, Kiki, updates on what?
The new race ethnicity data field that
Oh,
Evanston
yeah,
is
so
adding.
our board officially votes on it tonight. They discussed it at the September board meeting, and tonight they will vote to implement it. So once it's officially voted tonight, which I'm 99.9% certain that it will be voted in favor of, yeah, we're going to start training staff. I've already been working with the Northwestern student. We have a whole kind of back-end training script on it. It's set up in the back end. It's there in Polaris. So yeah, it'll be officially voted on tonight.
It would be awesome at our next governing board meeting if we could maybe have like an update on how that's going on, any roadblocks or challenges that maybe you guys discovered once you actually rolled it out.
Yeah, I think we can do that for sure.
Cool. We're going to just let you guys be the guinea pig, figure out all of the issues so that any of us that want to roll it out can do it perfectly.
All right, we'll get all the shocks and fed all the weird drugs first, I guess. So.
Great. Any other questions or comments about the committee and groups reports? No? Okay. Let me just make sure, sorry. Okay. No other questions or any other business, then I will adjourn the meeting at 10:44 a.m. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the nice weather while it lasts.
Thanks, everyone. Good to see you all.
Bye.